Hi, in this video, I'm going to show you how to use DaVinci Resolve 18.5 and its new AI tools to remove silence, ums, and ahs from your projects. I host a podcast with a friend called Drag Me to the Movies, and we use OBS to record it and DaVinci Resolve to edit it. As we record the podcast, we're using a lot of filler words like ums and ahs because we're formulating our thoughts and trying to piece together what we're going to say, which previously has been a manual process to remove them from the audio after the fact. The silence we had in there, we were able to remove with something called recut, and I do feel that they plan on removing ums and ahs eventually, but Resolve has that now, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do. All right, so I have an upcoming podcast episode in here that I'm going to use as an example. So let's drag that down, create a new timeline. And then what we're going to do is use DaVinci's AI to create an audio transcription. So go ahead and select that and do transcribe. And this can take anywhere from 30 seconds to 3 minutes. It really depends on the size of your project, but just give it the time it needs. All right, with that concluded, you can see that it creates a new pane that has all the audio transcriptions here, and you can hit play.
All right, the recording is started.
See that it's actually done a pretty decent job of documenting what is actually being said from the audio into a transcription.
And I'm Joe.
The little parentheses around ellipses represent silence that it's removing. And there are some cases where ums and uhs will potentially be flagged for that. Now, as you can see, as I highlight different things in here, that does update the timeline. So if I kind of go here, just say that, yeah, I can do that whole phrase. You can kind of really get particular with how you ends up doing this. So it does a very good job of pulling in this stuff. And this is not bulletproof. It's not going to get every bit of silence. It's not going to get every and but it does a very good job from what I've tested so far. So what we're going to want to do now that we have the silence areas indicated, we can also search for and see how many results we get for that. Now, there's a lot of cases where I see sometimes it does put in the ums, and this will be 70, somewhere it's 40. I don't know if that's just dependent upon the AI and how busy it is or what's going on there, but it seems to identify a good portion of them. So once you have those found, the replace with, you can leave blank and then just do replace all. And that is going to go through and either just remove it all together and include it with the silence, or it'll just update it to also be a silence representation in the middle of the phrase. So in this particular case, I know we have this right here. So I'm going to do those next. And if I search for them, you can see that is there, and I can do replace all. You can see it just kind of removed them. So with that removal, what I can then do is come up to the three dots in the top right, and I can do remove silent portions. And all those locations that it found and marked them, you will see it now has a strike through, which means it will not be in the outputted content, which I don't want to necessarily do it in the timeline I've created and created the transcription from. So what I'm going to do is just duplicate this timeline, and I'm going to rename it to edited. And then I'm going to go over there, do that timeline, and just delete anything that's in there. Come back over to this transcription pane, do a Control A to select all of the different text that's in there. And then you have the option to do the insert, append, doesn't matter which at this point. I'm just going to append. It does take a little bit to process, but once you process, you'll see that the audio is added to the timeline. So however long that takes, just give it a moment. And you can see the audio has been added, and you can see it automatically already has the cuts in here from where it removed pieces of content. So another thing you can do is kind of listen to this, and it does take a little bit to catch up. So you might need to give it a minute or two, maybe go get a cup of coffee or take a walk before you can come back here and come back and play it clearly. So it might stutter, depends on your machine, some things like that. So just be patient with it. But as you are over here, you can see that when you're focused on this timeline, it is on the edited. So like I'm clicking here, I'm working with this, it's on this timeline. But if I click back over to this transcription pane, it switches back to that timeline, which this corresponds to. So just be cautious when you hit play. If you have this window focused, it's going to play the content here and not what's actually down here. So I'm going to click over here, make sure I hear that.
And so many more.
Hit play.
Even Alec Baldwin as the narrator. Sojo, what did you
And
think?
in that case there, that and Sojo part, I don't like how close that is. And I want to add a little bit more padding to that. So what I'm going to do is drag my head over that and do Alt-Y to select everything to the right. And I'm going to drag that over. And then with that particular clip, I'm going to just bring it back a little bit. Do Alt-Y again. And once you have that, you can add as much padding back in. If some of your ums and ahs get cut off too much, and you just need to leave them in, you can make those adjustments as necessary. So again, this isn't perfect, but honestly, I would say it's doing at least a 90% of the job, which is honestly probably better than what I was doing manually going through and removing the ums and ahs. So now with all the ums, ahs, and silence removed, I would recommend going back through, listening to it yourself, making sure nothing sounds too awkward and tidying it up a bit. But ultimately, it's ready to be published. So that's how I currently handle it. If you have a better way, please let me know. Hopefully the video has been helpful in some way. And if you would like to see a video on my OBS and how I have it set up to do the podcast recording, let me know. For more information about me, you can check out my website, ADangerousMix.com, or if you want to chat sometime, I do stream over on Twitch at ADangerousMix. Bye.